In 1954, Alfred Hitchcock released a film that never left one apartment window. A broken-legged photographer, a courtyard full of strangers, and a murder no one was supposed to see. Rear Window became one of cinema's greatest thrillers, but it hid something Hitchcock himself refused to discuss in interviews. From a massive studio set with working plumbing to Grace Kelly risking everything while James Stewart just watched, this film buried revelations that change everything about how we understand suspense. Stick around because some of these facts will completely rewrite how you see this masterpiece. Number 1. Here's what seems impossible. The entire film takes place in one courtyard. Almost everything you see unfolds from Jeff's apartment window. No car chases, no exotic locations. Just a broken-legged photographer staring across an alleyway at his neighbor's windows. This wasn't a budget constraint, it was a deliberate trap. Hitchcock turned the physical restriction of that single vantage point into the movie's central tension, forcing viewers to experience voyeurism not as a plot device, but as an inescapable condition. The courtyard became a fishbowl, and Jeff, along with everyone watching him, became the observer who can't look away. What Hitchcock realized was that limitation creates obsession, and this obsession would soon define everything about how we understand the film. Number 2. Grace Kelly's first appearance became one of the most famous introductions in classic Hollywood history. She glides into Jeff's dark apartment, her face illuminated in 3 slow dissolves as she leans down to kiss him awake. The camera holds on her face, radiant, perfectly composed, impossibly beautiful. It's not just romantic, it's almost supernatural, like an apparition materializing from a dream. Hitchcock filmed it to feel like a vision Jeff doesn't quite deserve. A woman too perfect for the shabby, confined world he's trapped himself in. That entrance establishes Lisa as something unattainable, not because she's cold, but because Jeff refuses to reach for her. The tension between them would become the film's hidden conflict, though most viewers never realized it while watching. Number 3. The courtyard was one of the largest sets ever built. The entire apartment complex was constructed inside a Paramount studio, a massive multi-story structure with plumbing, electricity, and working elevators. 31 separate apartments, 8 complete interiors, real water flowing through pipes. Hitchcock insisted on functional details so actors could interact with the environment naturally. The set reportedly cost over $1 million in 1954 currency, an enormous investment for a film that takes place almost entirely in one location. This wasn't extravagance, it was precision. Hitchcock needed the world to feel real so the watching would feel real, and he controlled time itself to enhance that realism. Number 4. Rear Window isn't just admired, it's considered one of Hitchcock's greatest achievements. Decades of critics, scholars, and filmmakers have placed it among the top suspense films ever made. The American Film Institute ranked it number 42 on their list of the 100 greatest American films. It appears on virtually every essential cinema list ever compiled. This isn't nostalgia or generosity. Rear Window is recognized as peak Hitchcock because it accomplishes something most thrillers never attempt. It makes the audience aware of their own participation in the crime being committed. The film's reputation doesn't come from what happens in the story. It comes from what happens to the person watching. And that awareness begins with an entrance no one who saw it ever forgot. Number 5. The film made audiences aware that they were doing the same thing as Jeff, spying. This self-awareness became part of the thrill. You're sitting in a dark theater, staring at strangers' private moments, passing judgment, forming theories, hoping for something scandalous to be revealed. Hitchcock engineered the experience so that halfway through, viewers would recognize themselves in Jeff's behavior, the binoculars, the telephoto lens, the unblinking focus on other people's suffering. The movie doesn't let you escape that comparison. It insists on it. What made this so effective was that audiences enjoyed it anyway. They didn't stop watching, they leaned in. And Hitchcock knew exactly what that meant about human nature. Number 6. James Stewart was terrified of heights. Despite playing a photographer injured during a dangerous assignment, Stewart himself had a genuine fear of falling. That anxiety wasn't acted, it was managed. Hitchcock used this knowledge to extract a performance rooted in real vulnerability. When Jeff stares out his window at the courtyard below, when he teeters at the edge during the film's climax, Stewart's discomfort is authentic. The fear you see isn't theatrical bravado. It's a man confronting something that genuinely unnerves him. This made Jeff's passivity feel more credible. He's not just reluctant to act, he's fundamentally uncomfortable with risk. Which brings us to the real reason he can't commit to Lisa. Number 7. Grace Kelly's character represented a choice, not just romance. Lisa isn't simply a love interest. She embodies the life Jeff is terrified to accept. Adulthood, marriage, domesticity, responsibility. She arrives in elegant gowns, carrying dinner from expensive restaurants, talking about fashion shows and social commitments. Everything about her represents permanence, settlement, the end of his adventurous, independent existence. Jeff's resistance isn't about whether he loves her. It's about whether he's willing to stop running. The murder mystery becomes his excuse to avoid that decision, but Hitchcock embedded reminders everywhere about what Jeff was really afraid of. Number 8. The lonely neighbors weren't filler, they were emotional mirrors. Miss Lonely Hearts, the woman who sets imaginary dinner dates and pretends someone cares. The struggling songwriter who can't finish his composition. The newlyweds whose passion fades into routine. These weren't subplots designed to pad the runtime. Hitchcock created them as reflections of Jeff's fear of isolation, the future waiting for him if he refuses connection. Each neighbor represents a form of loneliness Jeff might be choosing without realizing it. They were meant to hurt, to make the audience, and Jeff, understand what's at stake. Number 9. Audiences felt uncomfortably seen. Many viewers reported unease after watching Rear Window, not because of the murder, but because of how naturally they enjoyed watching private lives unfold. Hitchcock had tricked them into recognizing their own voyeuristic pleasure. The film made them complicit. People left theaters feeling vaguely guilty, though they couldn't quite articulate why. Some critics called it morally troubling. Others found it thrilling precisely because it acknowledged something true about human curiosity that polite society preferred to ignore. Hitchcock had done something most filmmakers avoid. He'd shown his audience an unflattering reflection of themselves. And he never apologized for it, because the film's moral position was deliberately ambiguous. Number 10. The film normalizes voyeurism. Jeff is rewarded, not punished, for spying. He's proven correct about the murder. He gets the girl. He's validated in his suspicions and his methods. The movie never fully condemns him, which makes its message morally unsettling. Hitchcock refuses to deliver a clear ethical judgment. Instead, he leaves viewers with a question they can't answer cleanly. If watching saves a life, was it justified? And if you enjoyed watching, what does that make you? This moral complexity is what disturbed Hitchcock in retrospect. He'd created something that implicated everyone, but the murder itself was never really the point. Number 11. Murder is almost secondary. The suspected murder matters less than the act of watching. The suspense doesn't come from violence, it comes from observation, from waiting, from the terrible pleasure of seeing what you're not supposed to see. Hitchcock understood that the real tension wasn't whether Thorwald killed his wife. It was whether Jeff, and the audience, could stop watching long enough to question why they were so invested. The crime wasn't the killing. The crime was the looking. And Hitchcock emphasized that by removing one crucial filmmaking tool. Number 12. No music was added for emotion. Hitchcock avoided traditional background music to prevent guiding audience feelings. The only music you hear comes from the songwriter's apartment. Diegetic sound, part of the world itself. Everything else is silence, ambient noise, the natural rhythm of the courtyard. This left viewers alone with their curiosity, unmanipulated by swelling strings or ominous themes. You had to decide for yourself what to feel. That absence made the experience more unsettling. There was no score to tell you when to be afraid or relieved. You were on your own, just like Jeff. Number 13. Lisa risks her life for proof. While Jeff watches safely from his window, Lisa climbs into Thorwald's apartment, searching for evidence. She's the one in physical danger. She's the one taking action. Jeff remains passive, confined, observing through a lens. Hitchcock deliberately structured this to expose the gender imbalance in risk and power. The man theorizes while the woman sacrifices. Lisa does what Jeff cannot. She steps into the frame. This reversal was radical for 1954. The woman becomes the active hero. The man stays frozen. Number 14. Real time, real rhythm. The lighting changes naturally from day to night throughout the film, matching the story's timeline. Morning sun, afternoon heat, dusk, darkness. Hitchcock synchronized the narrative progression with the passage of time, creating a rhythm that felt organic rather than cinematic. This wasn't flashy, it was invisible craftsmanship designed to make the audience forget they were watching a movie. You weren't supposed to notice the technique. You were supposed to feel trapped in that courtyard with Jeff, living through the same hours he lived through. And every neighbor you saw had a life Hitchcock had imagined in full. Number 15. Every neighbor had a full backstory. Hitchcock created detailed biographies for each character visible through those windows, their jobs, their relationships, their hopes and failures. He shared these backstories with the actors so their movements and expressions would feel authentic, even though most of their dialogue would never be heard. The sculptress, the couple with the dog, the salesman, all of them had inner lives the audience would never fully know. This created a world that felt inhabited, not performed. And Hitchcock locked the camera into one perspective to intensify that sense of reality. Number 16. The camera never leaves Jeff's perspective. With rare exceptions, the audience only sees what Jeff sees. The camera stays in his apartment, locked into his limited viewpoint. When he looks through binoculars, the frame becomes circular. When he turns away, we lose access. This wasn't just a stylistic choice, it was a formal restriction that made viewers dependent on Jeff's gaze. You couldn't see more than he could. You couldn't verify anything independently. You were trapped in his voyeurism, forced to share his obsession. But the murder mystery was distracting everyone from the real conflict. Number 17. It's a film about fear of commitment. The murder mystery distracts from the true tension, Jeff's terror of marriage and adulthood. Lisa keeps asking him to stay, to settle, to build a life with her. Jeff keeps finding reasons to say no, his job, his freedom, his adventurous lifestyle. The murder gives him something else to focus on, a crisis that justifies avoiding the real question she's asking. Hitchcock structured the entire film around this avoidance. The killer across the courtyard is just a symptom of Jeff's deeper paralysis, and Lisa is the one who finally breaks through it. Number 18. Lisa is the true hero. She takes action. She gathers evidence. She confronts danger. Jeff remains passive, immobilized, dependent on others to move the story forward. Lisa transforms from a decorative figure in the opening scenes into the film's moral and physical center. She proves her worth not by conforming to Jeff's world, but by being braver than he is. Hitchcock deliberately inverted the expected gender roles, making the woman the agent of change. By the end, Jeff's position, watching from safety, looks cowardly, and the film punishes him for it in an unexpected way. Number 19. The ending is ironically punitive. Jeff ends up with 2 broken legs, double his original injury. He's more confined than before, more dependent, more passive. The film suggests that voyeurism and inaction carry consequences after all. He's literally more trapped after solving the mystery than he was when it began. Hitchcock's final shot shows Jeff asleep while Lisa, dressed in jeans, reads an adventure magazine before switching back to her fashion book. A quiet suggestion that she's willing to meet him halfway, but he hasn't changed at all. The resolution is ambiguous. Has Jeff learned anything, or has he simply been rewarded for bad behavior? And this ambiguity points to something Hitchcock understood decades before the rest of us. Number 20. The movie predicts modern surveillance culture. From social media to reality TV to smartphone cameras pointed at strangers, Rear Window anticipated a world where watching others became entertainment. Hitchcock saw it coming in 1954, the collapse of privacy, the normalization of observation, the way people would willingly expose their lives while simultaneously consuming everyone else's. The courtyard is now Instagram. Jeff's telephoto lens is now your feed. The guilty pleasure he experiences is now algorithmically optimized and monetized. Hitchcock made a film about the future without realizing it, and the scene he refused to explain reveals why it disturbed him. The scene Hitchcock wouldn't discuss wasn't a single moment. It was the entire film. He'd created a mirror that showed audiences their own capacity for voyeurism, and he'd made it entertaining. That contradiction haunted him. Rear Window remains unsettling not because of what it shows, but because of what it reveals about everyone watching.